So what does a $500 model rocket kit look like? We're about to find out. I'm James Duffy and I'll be your guide as we take a look at the contents of a new kit from North Coast Rocketry. This is a 1.866 scale replica of the Argo D4 Javelin, a sounding rocket flown by NASA beginning in 1959. The Javelin was a 4-stage rocket and flew using an Honest John-based booster with Nike motors in the second and third stages. The payload section also had a small kicker motor. It's renowned among scale model rocket enthusiasts for the riot of colors splashed all over the vehicle. When assembled, this model will be over 5 feet tall, or in the metric units that we science-minded types should be using, 1.71 meters. Now, in the spirit of full disclosure, I need to state up front that NCR Grand Poobah Matt Steele is a friend. The kit showed up unannounced along with this postcard. The best scale model rocket kit ever made is a mighty lofty claim. I'll state that I think that particular title is currently a three-way tie held by the Saturn V and Saturn 1B siblings produced by Apogee Rockets, along with the Little Joe 2 released by Estes several years ago. We'll see how this new Javelin kit hangs in with those. Let's dive in. The first thing I notice is that there are a bunch of padded bags containing individual parts, all labeled with the name of the bit inside. We'll start with this envelope, which I suspect contains the assembly instructions, and indeed it does. Matt does great instruction sheets. He once shared with me that he continuously updates the instructions for all of his kits, incorporating changes based on questions and suggestions and feedback that he receives from customers. That's a great idea. The envelope also contains a neat little certificate of authenticity, which seems strangely appropriate for a kit that costs more than some cars. You'll be able to say that you hold clear title to your model once it's complete. There's also a water slide decal sheet. These green details are cool. These are called cradle marks, and they're the result of painting a rocket while it rests in a horizontal handling fixture. Early sounding rockets were painted in a haphazard manner, often in the days just before the flight was scheduled. The motors were usually repurposed or surplus military missiles, and the Javelin is a great example of that practice. The parts would usually arrive in olive drab, which was tough for tracking cameras to follow. The researchers at Wallops Island or Cape Canaveral or Fort Churchill or wherever the rocket was being flown would send somebody to the local hardware store to pick up paint. That paint would get splashed on the rocket by the low man on the range org chart. The decal sheet in this kit pays tribute to that guy by recreating the rough, fuzzy, feathered edges of the cradle marks. There are also a couple of United States markings for the sides of the Honest John-based first stage. There are also a couple of NCR logos. If you want to add that to your model, I'm sure Matt wouldn't mind that. A quick examination of the instruction manual shows that everything gets painted before assembly. That's the reverse of traditional model rocket building practice. Once everything is painted, assembly is not unlike an Estes quick build kit. Let's next take a look at the tubes supplied with the kit. These are the standard Euclid Paramount tubes that we've all come to know and love. The largest tube is a thick wall BT-80 style tube, and it represents the Honest John-based first stage. There are a pair of twinned tubes that will be used to build the Nike-based second and third stages. Here's a section of tubing for the payload section up at the top. We have a pair of coupler sections that will be used to bring everything together. And finally, we have a 29mm motor mount tube. Like any well-behaved model rocket kit, there needs to be an accessory bag for all the little extra bits. I believe that this is a regulatory requirement in every state except Louisiana. The Javelin kit does not disappoint on this point. Inside we have 2 nylon parachutes, Kevlar and elastic shock cords. We also have a quick link carabiner for attaching the recovery system, and a heavy-duty steel shock cord mount, complete with shrink wrap for covering the swage links. There's also an eye bolt and hardware for the other end of the recovery system, as well as an assortment of laser-cut centering rings and bulkheads, and a 29mm Estes-style engine retainer. Finally, in a bit of foreshadowing, we have our first hint of what the rest of the box contains. These are a pair of 3D printed scale rail guides for the Honest John booster. In a separate padded bag, there's also a 3D printed belly band that you'll install at the midpoint of the booster. The bolt head details on this are just really well done. The quality of printing on these parts is just fantastic. There's little or no evidence of the striations that appear on many 3D printed parts. All of the printed parts in this kit were done by Mike Nowak at Galactic Manufacturing, and the design of the parts was done by both Mike and Josh Sherhart. Mike uses a stereolithography process to produce these parts. Let's start digging into the rest of the many bags of printed stuff we have here. First up are the Honest John fins for the booster stage. The unique beveled appearance of this fin is perfect, and certainly easier than struggling with the old vacuform parts that were included in the old Estes Maxi Brute Honest John kit. There are a few molding artifacts that the builder will need to sand off, but that's easy to do. Next up are the Nike fins, which come in 2 different sizes. The larger ones are used on the 2nd stage, the smaller ones are used on the 3rd stage. These also have a distinctive bevel, and you can rejoice in the fact that you won't have to sand that bevel into a balsa part. The shape on this printed part is just perfect. Also, the fin attachment tab has been very crisply executed, and you can clearly make out the hexagonal shape of the bolts. There are, again, 8 total Nike fins here, 4 small, 4 large. We'll work from the bottom up as we take a look at the rest of the printed parts. This is the Honest John booster fin can. It's very nicely rendered. It's got a smooth surface, and the distinctive taper of the can is really well done. The bases of the rail guides are already integrated into this part, so attaching the remaining bits, the parts we looked at a moment ago, will be accurate and easy. There are also some access hatches molded into the surface of the part. Intriguingly, I don't know how well this is going to show up on camera, there are some flappy bits inside that will be used to create some additional surface area for a very strong fin to tail cone bond. We already saw the belly band for the booster a moment ago. Working our way forward on the airframe, we next come to the adapter to connect the Honest John booster to the 2nd stage Nike. My favorite part of this is the accurately molded dome section, which replicates the forward end of the Honest John motor. There are even bolts depicted on the forward end of these linear attachment fixtures. The 2nd stage will fit over the forward end of this part. Next up is our 2nd stage Nike fin can, which is covered in some beautiful rivet detail. Just for grins, let me show you how the fin integrates with that fin can. The fit is perfect. It's just like a quick build Estes kit. There is inside, this is kind of intriguing, what appears to be a hole for an 18mm motor. If you want to turn this into a multi-stage model, it appears that some of the dirty work has already been done for you. Here's the connector that you'll use to attach the 2 Nike stages. It has these neat little recesses modeled into the circumference of the part, and there's even a rail guide already molded in on one side. Could you build this with a staging timer down in the base? Yeah, probably, if you have the stones for such a task. The forward end of this will integrate with the aft end of the Nike fin can for the third stage. At the forward end of the third stage, we have the adapter that will connect the rocket to the payload section. This is called the X24B section, and it even had its own rocket motor, which makes this version of the rocket a four-stage vehicle. Finally, we have our nose cone, which, if our count is correct, makes for a total of 22 3D printed parts in the kit. As a frequent scale builder, what really strikes me about this kit is that each and every part, and I mean every part, can be primed, painted, and decaled before any assembly takes place. What that means is that your model has a really good shot at being absolutely perfect. I've used the Estes quick build kit analogy a couple of times already, and it really is true. You can have every individual part of this model complete and ready to go before a drop of glue is used. Another way to look at this is that you may be able to do the whole thing without once being disappointed by a masking tape failure. Here's a big question that hangs over this model. Can it be turned into a viable three-stage model? Well, sure, if you know what you're doing, and it's pretty clear that Matt has thought about that task too, if the design of the Nike fin cans is any indication. Anyone considering such a modification will need to have some experience and success with staging electronics like the Perfect Flight Mini Timer or the Apogee Simple Timer. Either way, you'll need two timers, one for the second stage, one for the third stage. You'll also be operating outside of the original design of the kit and without any factory support. So what's my plan for building this kit? First, I'm going to build it box stock and resist the urge to turn it into a multi-stage beast. If I had access to a laser cutter in order to build all of the required mounts for timers and power sources, I might change my mind. As for painting all of the bolts, crevices, gussets, and details are just begging to get a healthy dose of pre-shading. If you don't know what pre-shading is, I encourage you to take a look at my Narcon 2021 presentation, which I'll link in the comments below. I'll use Matt's paint suggestions from the directions, which call for Tamiya spray lacquers for almost every application. The one exception that Matt lists on his list of paints is a suggestion for a Rust-Oleum fluorescent yellow, which has no Tamiya equivalent. Once all of the paint is in place, we'll do some gentle dry brushing of all the great bolt and rivet details. I'll probably also resist the urge to use the cradle mark decals. Instead, I'll try what I like to call a lifted mask. That's where you cut a mask to the appropriate size and shape, but position that mask above the surface of the model in order to get realistically ragged and uneven paint lines. When I do that step, I'll be sure to record the process and share it. So here's the $500 question. Is the kit worth the price? I guess that really depends on the builder and what they expect from a model. If you want near FAI World Championship results, sure, it's worth every penny and probably much more. If you just want a neat rocket to fly at club launches, you're probably better off building a similar beast out of an old Estes Maxi Brute Honest John kit, a couple of BT60 size Nike smokes, and some scratch-built adapters. Be aware though, if you go that route, your model won't look anything like this new NCR kit. So where does this rank with the best ever scale kits that we discussed at the top of this video? To recap, the kits I named were the Estes Little Joe 2, that's the Apollo version, and the Saturn 1B and Saturn 5 kits from Apogee. If we consider value as a driving factor, the Estes Little Joe 2 will come out on top. Heck, I think you can buy it for as little as 30 bucks. If we consider complexity, the Apogee Saturn 1B is at the top of the stack. The fact that the 1B is inarguably the most beautiful rocket to ever fly counts for something as well. If size and impact is what you're after, the top of the heap would be the Apogee Saturn 5 or maybe this new NCR kit. If size and wow factor plus speed and ease of assembly is important, the new Javelin kit is clearly the top choice. So here's the bottom line. They're all great kits and you should build them all. Like real rockets, they're all radically different and each has its own unique charm. If you were on the edge about the purchase of a $500 kit, this video should ease your concerns and send you tumbling over that decision-making edge. If you weren't inclined to make such a purchase before watching this video, this is probably not the kit for you. Now, if you have a burning desire to build a Javelin but don't have $500 burning a hole in your pocket, Matt has plans to release a smaller version of the rocket later this year, perhaps by Memorial Day. Stay tuned for that. So that brings us to the end of this unboxing video. The new Argo D4 Javelin kit is fantastic, but it clearly isn't for everyone. The unique construction and materials will make it a breeze to paint and build successfully, but that convenience comes at a literal high price. For the handful of hobbyists out there who are willing to make that investment, though, they'll be rewarded with a truly unique model and build experience, and the rewards from that will go far beyond the purchase price. Again, thanks to Matt for the review copy. This will be moving to the front of my build queue.